Okay, so this week is week 4. In our curriculum, we mentioned that we will get to Ruby on Rails in week 4, and I think our progress, we're still going through this. Let me just close.
Ali, can you? Where is this document? I can never find it.
It's in the email we sent out to the cohort. There's a link. I think.
Can you
Yeah.
put it in the?
I will. I'm going to revise a little bit of this order. So OU end of day, yeah? I'll send an updated copy. So this copy I haven't touched. I have another copy that I'm shuffling. Like I'm actually moving some of the database stuff to the first week and then some of the user login, log out to the second week. But so far, it's pretty amazing. We finished 3 weeks up to here. And today is pretty much, this is your first Rails application this week. Now, entering Rails, I will follow this book. And even though this book is not as popular as when it first came out, when Rails first came out, Rails 1, Rails 2.0, like 1.2, this book was the Bible for the internet, really. And since then, right, these guys didn't really update their stuff as much. This book get updated now. It's nice. Is nice, and it's a really good way to provide them the guide. Say from the guys who this guy wrote Rails, and these guys are really two famous guys in the Ruby community. I want to give you guys an overview. This book is not for everyone, but I will take some content from it and work with the class. So obviously I support them by buying this book, at least that I can properly use it and share. But I want to talk about some other resources you can use. Okay, I can share chapters from here, things you guys can read. I don't expect you guys to do all this extra reading. It's all optional. Do the lab and do the homework. That will get, and then the rest is on the internet. I guarantee that it's fine. We have success with the part-time Ruby class that way, and I think we will have even better materials this time with our day-to-day thing. So you'll see today. But I want to talk about the Rails landscape in general. Yeah.
You will post those links, the books or something.
Yes, I will share. This could be, I can give probably chapter by chapter. So this is another paid book that I can share some content to it. Now, but again, this is optional. I just tell you guys that if you think some of the things I cover, you want to read more on it, and then I'm happy to share more materials in it. So this is one book that if you want to catch up with Ruby, just have some more consolidation of Ruby on Rails, but go back to the basics first. These are the chapter, the content, and it goes through the Ruby programming language and a little bit of a server with Ruby. So obviously this belongs to more like the first 3 weeks, but it's still nice. I have it up here, so I thought I'd just mention it. So thanks Stan for suggesting it. So these guys, I check out these guys' work before. These are pretty good guys, and they are they recommend this book, so it's good. Another one for Ruby beginners, and then if you want to share, help your friends, you want to share this to people who want to check out Ruby, there's a more up-to-date version, which I also have, but this version, if you want, this online version is good enough. It just talk through Ruby. Again, have a casual read. Once in a while, it refreshes your memory. And try to think, if you explain to your friend, if you can teach your friend a few days of Ruby to learn programming, and this could be something that you go back to. And you will see that some of the exercises are similar to our lab, except that we always go faster than the books because it's in class, and we make sure we can ask questions and stuff. So the book can be a nice self-paced option. why are we talking about this background thing? It is to give some general uh, background knowledge, and I'm open to questions as well. There's one book that the whole internet, so a lot of places tells you to learn from. And what's funny is that a lot of people have succeeded with this book, and then they say it's fantastic, but a lot of people have failed with this book because it's written by a Caltech guy, PhD, and it's like it's fantastic, but it's trying to teach a lot of things in all one flow, building like something similar to a Twitter app, and along the way people just get lost. So it's really not for everyone. It's for someone with experience and really the persistence to go chapter by chapter. You can buy screencast, you can buy it, the book version, or you can just read it online for free. It's very nice to go into some chapter to read the explanation and some diagrams, but very it's very intense. So a lot of people along the way they follow this, they will feel like, oh my god, like I'm losing it, I'm losing it. You kind of lose your confidence a little bit. But you will read online, it's like where to find Ruby on Rails and stuff, and you'll find that this is one of the places that there's this love and hate. So then some people, decide that something must be simpler. So this guy wrote, this guy wrote this book. The book one here, I check it out. I just sign up and I download it. I did not download book two, so I have no idea what the content inside is like. It's supposed to be a more gentle introduction to Rails. So it's in the spirit of this book. No, not this one. In the spirit of this kind of book, and again for people who are newer to Rails, then it could be more accessible. Okay. Book one, however, it's just quite nice just to some background reading. Why Rails, JavaScript, and what is the status of web development in the world today. So read it when you have some spare time. It's nice. And then of course these guys also sell extra screencasts. And the screencasts are very similar to what you guys get with my live lecture. It's like, let's go through this. I'm gonna explain as I code something. Rails became really popular in the world thanks to Railscast have a huge contribution when 10 years ago when Ruby on Rails was really new and hot. Imagine you're working on an application and you're like, I wonder how to do drag and drop. And then this guy would basically come up with the drag and drop tutorial the next Monday. He releases one every week. So I remember back then I was like, how do I do Ajax form? And then the next Monday, it's just like people are facing the same problem. So then when you look at his Railscast, people will actually comment, did you read my mind? How the hell did you come up with this? It's just because out there in the world, so many people are trying to solve this problem, and then this is like too bad. It's very old, but this is still like a gem, really. So for us, I think there's a lot of this that we still can learn from. Some of the some people still trying to update the materials to the latest code. Some concepts don't change, and this guy has this amazing screencast that basically just a few minutes will give you a concise version of things. Because Rails is no longer the hottest on the internet, you don't see the latest video casts coming up. In the same way, if you learn PHP, Java, .NET, still all over the internet, but it's not new. It's not not stuff that you see like this year, this month. If you learn React Native, the latest iOS Swift 3.0, the programming language, and or like Android Kotlin, the new programming language that they now is on. It can replace Java if you want to build Java application. You will see these videos just like that. And the community for that is huge. So I just ask that for our course, don't worry so much. Our luck is now things are very stable, and we can learn and really understand very well. The skills that you get after this course is how to troubleshoot, how to learn new things. So if you pick up React on your own, the 20%, 30% of this course is JavaScript. It still help you a lot. You should be fine too. Of course, if you take another go to school class, you'll learn a little bit faster. But you'll be ready for the evening class, which is the intensive course on iOS, Android, React Native, or Node.js, or Ruby on Rails. Actually, you don't need the Ruby on Rails class. Yeah, we had one before, but we need to update the curriculum. It went out of date a little too fast. Yeah. React Native is out of date, but we're teaching it again and again, so we can update it as we go. Node.js, we taught it last winter, and now we look at it, it's like, oh, it's really out of date. So that kind of sucks, you know. Even the books, that's the problem. The books for Node.js back then, they went out of date quickly. Because Node is too general. It's just JavaScript, and that's a bit dry. So we might just go straight to React.js and make it a course. Technically, you know, React Native is already a lot of just all JavaScript. So making the Node.js is it's not as super useful. But if I'm to teach Node.js, it will go very similar to our first 3 weeks, except instead of Symmetra, it will be Node.js. Instead of ERB, it will be PUG templating language, and then etc. There's some exciting stuff with Node. So also to share and to make sure you guys are comfortable, not feeling like you're learning something not useful, I want to share another blog post that Fu shared with me. Has anyone seen this one? Has anyone seen this one? You have? Did it make you feel like, oh shit?
No, because it's been a long time. Because it's 2 years the programmers and developers are talking about that. But at the end of the day, you just it's variable, but it's variable simply you choose that tool
Yeah.
and raise. Now probably it's like Java or another all environment developing system. It's considered. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just in a class at all. So just.
So you're not worried? Yeah. Good.
I did a bunch of research on this subject like before signing up, and I looked at a bunch of like the US boot camps, like the big ones, or like international boot camps.
Yeah.
And a few of them are like went full JavaScript.
Yeah.
Right, with Node. But from what I found, most of the really respected ones kept both.
Yeah.
Said Ruby plus JavaScript, and there were a couple of reasons, and they had a couple of blog posts about why. And from what I remember, it was basically they said that if you learn only JavaScript, like you only have kind of one tool, and learning new tools is gonna be a big challenge. Like as you try to add more in the future to your arsenal. Whereas if you have a foundation with like Ruby and JavaScript, where I think Ruby is like object oriented, right? JavaScript isn't. Then you have a much better base, also just for the future. If you want to switch to something or add a new language or do something, it's just much broader.
Yeah, no, actually that's a fantastic point. Does that make sense to you guys? That in our course, for example, we're learning 2 languages, right? On top of the markup languages like HTML and CSS, right? And then a lot of tools, which is the bootcamp, like web development bootcamp. What we're excited about is like, holy crap, we have to teach so many different tools compared to iOS or Android. You just put the studio and then you just compile and just run. There are pros and cons, and for us, through this discomfort of using so many tools, we grow a lot in many better ways to figure things out. So yeah, I want to share it and have an honest conversation. Now, what's interesting is even we're in Vietnam right now, and this is the U.S. Right? The U.S. when Ruby on Rails was the fever, the U.S. is the first country to just really embrace Ruby on Rails for many years, and then because they grow too fast with it, a lot of websites decide to maybe switch to something else harder. And the US always go very fast. It doesn't, but Ruby on Rails is still the backbone of the most number of successful applications. GitHub, Shopify, 500 Pixel, just so many, Groupon, you name it. You can go to Build with Rails or like so many website builders. It's a lot of inspiration. What's interesting is, go back to Vietnam, even in Vietnam, if you set up a company and you want to build a product, what technology do you choose? Let's say I'm the chief technology guy. My friends say they will not choose Ruby because to him it's too new. I'm like, what? It's not new, but it's new here. It's easier to find a PHP developer here. It's easier to find a Java developer here. So why choose a language that is harder to find people? Then you have to train them. So like, oh, that's interesting, right? But the mindset is obviously not just the technology. A lot of technologies mature, it's good. You have to choose what makes sense. Now, if you go to the Ruby on Rails developer group on Facebook, a few Ruby Vietnam and other Ruby on Rails group, you see job posting more and more now. It turns out more companies using Ruby on Rails are now appearing. So you have Tiny Pulse, Employment Hero, and CodeLink, and a few ones here that they pay quite well, and some are they're just building for foreign overseas clients, and they like Ruby. They think it's easy to test and easy to work with the clients, so there's just demand more and more coming up. So like I think the growth is never as fast as before. Like Node.js system is still growing like this. Ruby is like this. So it's okay. There's a lot of good content for us to learn from, but just expect that things are quite mature already. It's convenient, but it's not as hot. Let's be honest to ourselves there. However, we kept it. One is that because we're really good at it, so we chose this one. Two is that we still think it's one of the best thing to start as a programmer. So two languages that I think that are very good to start is either Ruby or Python. Definitely not C, and definitely not Java, right? And if this article, I don't know, I find that it's a little strange. Let's say this guy say, right, some university, switched back to Java. I think that's such bullshit. And then if you see this link, it's so true that like, why would Java make sense as an introductory language? It just makes zero sense. Like, why do you have to learn this just to write hello world? Right? Why do you have to set up the environment? It's compiling Java. It's tricky. So JavaScript, even JavaScript is more fun to write. So there are some good content in here, but it also say the web is moving. There's some good thoughts here, right? Rails was amazing when it came out because before that they have either PHP or Java or .NET, and these are very big systems that just. And it's really a lot of it, the advanced ones, like Java, how to build very secure, safe app. And it was a Spring framework, some other framework. So it's like this. And Rails was just making a lot of people happy. People come from Java and PHP, they become so happy. But then a lot of people who become great Rails developer, they used to be PHP developers. Because they know the productivity boost, so they love it. So imagine we're now using Ruby, we learn a lot of good things here, and then we eventually switch to JavaScript or anything else. We will have more experience. It's like it's so much easier when you learn the second language. So this article here is interesting. There's one tendency for us to know is that the world's moving towards front end. Right, so let me just paste this link on our Slack. Right, and think about the front end worlds that now it's because of mobile development. Because of mobile development, people like to build the front end to be the same for the web and the mobile world, and that's why it's building it as a backend. Only return JSON or like the which is just the data structure. Like I'll show you guys more as we in the later weeks. Okay, just it looks like JavaScript, just object with key and value, and the web will use either React or Vue or Angular to render the page. I'll show. We have a week on that as well. It's really fun. Or if you take iOS or Android, you can also use iOS and Android and load the JSON file and then render the the content. So one web backend for all different medium. Yeah.
This will be something for the company, but for the big company, as much as SQL, they need to convert it to JSON.
Yeah. Well, the backend. The one I recommend for backend is database, for example. PostgreSQL is the most common, and it's extremely powerful. It's enough to solve most companies' problems. So yes, it will be in SQL, but then if you use something like Ruby or Python, it provides you the language that get the content in the database effectively. Productively, right? Harder to make mistake. You don't have to write SQL statement yourself, but you will have to learn some SQL for those of you who are not familiar with. We will learn that as well, but you cannot really skip that. If you build a fun mobile app, you can use Firebase or just Amazon Lambda, or Facebook used to have something called Parse, and it just provides you the backend, just the database, and there's no need for server. And you can log in and you can get information, you can save information, but that's it. It's not as powerful, but for us, we're learning the fundamentals to build the backbone of any any application, web or mobile. And in the process, we become more familiar with the browser client-side application development, with the database, with development, putting our code on Heroku or another server. Yeah, so and with using your computer, like using the terminal, using Git, right? All of that's required. Cool. So for now, don't be discouraged of this. Like Oscar says, some actually still keeping it. We also see some famous bootcamps closing down in the past 2 weeks. One's Dev Bootcamp, the famous one in San Francisco, and another one is Iron Yard, which try to expand to a few cities. But they teach really weird old technologies like .NET, Java. Well, imagine these guys running it for 5 years, and they've trained over 1,000 talented people. But what's next? If it's doing the same thing, maybe they want to do something else. It's normal. We're new over here, and what we want to do is, look, I mean, there's a clear demand here and many other cities in the world. And for us, we actually want to be able to just put a pin on the map and say, hey, let's have another code school in Indonesia or Mexico, and if we will figure out how to make it happen. In the US, there's no need to go global. If you have a bootcamp there, it's like, you can have a high tuition, you can find great job. Global is different. It's not really for the money thing, right? Because the market is not ready. The salary for developers is not as high. So still, it's interesting that there's a lot of bootcamps in the US, like 60 plus, and then some top ones are like, okay, we've been doing the same thing for the past 5 years. Let's just do something else. Yeah. So there are different models for bootcamps in the US. Some take the very expensive tuition initially, but it's great outcome if you give it your best. $15,000, for 3 months. $20,000, or some other ones that they they will just say free until you find a job, and then they will charge you, and it's great. Well, okay, it's guaranteed. I get a job and I'll pay you, and some companies will charge the companies 2 months of salary if you hire my graduate. So depends. There are different models. Yeah. So it's still exciting because technologies keep changing, and for a boot camp, for a code school, it has to decide what's a good, uh, what's a good technology to teach and what kind of environment to teach. So thanks, Oscar. I really like Flatiron School. The guy also has a similar background, like he's been working in technology for a long time. Then he loves teaching. So and they write really good content.
I just posted it.
Yeah, I saw the link there. Yeah, so if they explain that, and it's only quite recent as well, so it looks like not everyone dropped this. And if Flatiron also teaches Sinatra and then Ruby, so we do have kind of different very similar mindset really. Except I don't want to go too much Sinatra at this point because our course is shorter, and also it's at this point it's better to go to Rails, and later if you go back to Sinatra, you know how to add database to Sinatra, you know how to do model view controller for Sinatra. I think it's not necessary for me to teach how you do model view controller, database models, different things in Sinatra. That's too much, and it's a lot of things to remember. How do I add it again? That's a lot to remember, and I take a different approach there. So adding, how to work with CSS, how to work with the latest JavaScript libraries, React, all of that I'm going to do on Rails instead of Sinatra, because Sinatra now I have to show you how to add them to the framework, which is not easy to remember. But with Rails, it's easy. You do it once, and every time you run a project, you do it the same way. A lot of things come as default. Cool. I'll take a look as well. I think I will agree with a lot of this. So I kind of, because I thought about this process before a lot. And to me, the answer is either Ruby or Python as a backend language, as a general purpose language, and JavaScript as a very convenient, the most pervasive language. It's everywhere, so you have to know JavaScript. It's the most used language. Python is the most general purpose language because it's backed by Google. If you work on any simple project, you see Python still gaining in popularity, even though it's really silly. Even though the world is divided, some people say, "Oh, I'm on Python 2.7. I cannot upgrade." Like, oh, okay, Python 3 changes too much. And then Python 3 is better, but it doesn't work with a lot of Python 2, so you have a divided community. It's quite tricky to switch between Python 2 and 3. For Ruby, it's funny because with Ruby on Rails, the mindset of Ruby ecosystem is quite nice. They always try to move forward. They know Ruby 1.9 was slow, so when 2.7 came out, everyone would switch to it. And then, each time Ruby get faster and faster. So now it's 2.4.1, and you go out there, everyone's trying to use Ruby 2.4.1, and so it's quite well maintained, despite the new features and optimization. People do want to switch to the newer version, so it's nice. It's just less confusing. So that's the convenience that we can enjoy with Ruby. All right, but I will go back to the homework next. So this is just to get excited about Rails, and then there's the lab today. We will again jump onto a new topic, and I will let you guys do that with different bonus parts. So the ones who are fast and good should definitely try to make it pretty. The rest, if you run into any problems, just make sure you ask a lot in class. Try to finish the lab in class, okay? I won't make it too crazy, don't worry.